This is a true story, a story about struggle, survival, and transformation. A story that could change how you see your own life. We often look past the people who are fighting the hardest battles, living in the shadows of a world that seems to have everything. But even in the deepest darkness, there is a spark waiting to be found. For some, survival is not a choice, but a daily demand. The world can be a cold place when you have nowhere to go. Every detail you are about to see is based on real events. Names have been changed to protect the innocent. This is not just a documentary, it's a testament to the human spirit. It started in a place where hope was a luxury no one could afford. His mother worked 3 jobs, but it was never enough to fill the void. Hunger was a constant companion, a quiet ache that never left. At school, he was the invisible boy, marked by his poverty. Books became his sanctuary, his window into a world he didn't know existed. Someone was watching, though he didn't know it yet. A single act of kindness can change everything. It wasn't just a bag, it was a sign that he mattered, that he was seen. From that day on, something shifted. A fire was lit that no amount of hardship could extinguish. Years of relentless effort followed. He worked, he learned, and he refused to be a victim of his circumstances. He took every job he could find. Every dollar earned was a step away from the shadows. The day the letter arrived, his mother didn't say a word. She just held him and cried. University was a different world, but he walked those halls with the strength of someone who had survived much worse. He found his voice. He realized that his story wasn't a burden, it was his greatest asset. Transformation isn't about forgetting where you came from. It's about using it to build where you're going. Today, he stands where he once only dared to look up, not just for himself, but for those still in the shadows. He returned to the streets that once ignored him, but this time, he brought hope with him. He became the person he needed when he was 8 years old, a mentor, a guide, a friend. Your current situation is not your final destination. Remember that every single day. Growth often happens in the most unlikely places. You just have to keep pushing. The pain of the past can be the fuel for a future you never imagined possible. Never forget the lessons learned in the struggle. They are the foundation of your success. Success is sweetest when shared with the ones who stood by you when you had nothing. What is your story going to be? What transformation are you waiting for? Don't wait for the perfect moment. Take the moment and make it perfect. We are all part of a larger story, a story of resilience, hope, and the incredible power of the human heart. This is just the beginning. Your story is still being written. Make it a masterpiece. Thank you for being part of this journey. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who needs it. Remember, your story matters. We'll see you in the next one. Stay strong, believe. There was a time when he had nothing, no money, no home, not even enough food to survive. Every day was a struggle. Every night was uncertain. He felt like life had no direction, no future. Bro, people are making thousands using AI just by creating videos. In that moment, everything changed. He decided he would learn AI, no matter what. The world was moving fast, but he felt left behind, stuck in a cycle that seemed impossible to break. With nothing but an old, weathered laptop and a hunger for change, he decided to take the first step. He didn't have money for expensive courses. He only had his time and a slow internet connection. He started learning, using free videos, one step at a time. While others slept, he watched. He listened. He tried to understand a world that felt alien. Every concept was a mountain to climb, but he kept climbing, page by page. The algorithms were complex, but the goal was simple: to learn, to grow, to survive. His hardware was old, and his progress was slow, but his resolve was newer than anything he'd ever felt. One step, then another. The journey of 1,000 miles was beginning in this small, quiet room. Mornings blended into nights. The laptop became his window to a different life. Consistency was his only weapon. He wielded it with a quiet, desperate strength. He started learning, using free videos, one step at a time. This was just the beginning. But then, the wall hit him. The excitement of the first steps faded into the cold reality of complexity. It wasn't easy. For every one thing he understood, 10 more seemed to break. Mistakes were constant. The feeling of inadequacy was a shadow that wouldn't leave him. He questioned everything. Was he too late? Was he not smart enough? The doubts were louder than the tutorials. But he didn't quit. He couldn't afford to. This was his only way out. He learned that failure wasn't the end. It was the teacher he hadn't asked for. He tried, he failed, and then he tried again. 1,000 times if that's what it took. His mind was a storm of logic and frustration. But slowly, the clouds were beginning to shift. The world outside didn't care about his struggle, but he did, and that was enough. It wasn't easy, but he didn't quit. He was forged in the heat of his own mistakes. Every failure was a lesson. Every mistake was a step closer to understanding. It wasn't easy, but he didn't quit. He had found the rhythm of the struggle. Then, a new world opened up. A world where imagination was the only limit: AI tools. He discovered text to video, the power to create entire worlds with just a few words. Video editing AI, content creation tools, the weapons of a new generation of creators. He learned how to create videos using AI tools, without any experience. The barrier to entry had vanished. He wasn't just a spectator anymore. He was a director, a writer, an artist. The tools were powerful, but it was his vision that gave them soul. What used to take months now took minutes. The speed of his growth was breathtaking. He learned the language of prompts, the art of talking to the machine to create beauty. He learned how to give his stories a voice that could reach across the world. He learned how to create videos using AI tools, without any experience, and he was doing it all from his small, quiet room. Innovation was no longer reserved for the elite. It belonged to anyone with a dream and an internet connection. He learned how to create videos using AI tools, without any experience. The future was in his hands. Now came the refinement, the transition from a beginner to a craftsman. Day by day, he got better. His results were no longer just experiments. They were becoming professional. Clean videos, better editing. The fear of the unknown was replaced by the thrill of mastery. He knew what he was doing now. He learned the nuances of storytelling, the power of a perfectly timed cut, the emotion of a color grade. The world was starting to notice. The struggle was paying off in ways he hadn't imagined. Day by day, he got better. The laptop wasn't a struggle anymore. It was an extension of his mind. He was pushing the limits of what the tools could do. He was finding his own voice in the digital noise. The dark nights were over. He was working in the light now, proud of what he had built. Day by day, he got better. Every project was a testament to how far he had come. He wasn't afraid to share his vision with the world anymore. He was ready. The journey had been long, but every step was worth it. Day by day, he got better. Day by day, he got better. He wasn't just learning AI, he was becoming the future. A new day was dawning, not just for the world, but for him. A life he once only dreamed of was finally within reach. For the first time, he believed he could change his life. The weight of the past was finally lifting. The old laptop was a memory. The struggle was a foundation. And the future was bright. He had found his purpose in the digital age, a path forward where there used to be none. The skills he learned were more than just tools. They were the keys to a kingdom he was finally ready to enter. For the first time, he believed he could change his life. And he was right. The journey continues, but the destination is finally in sight. Hope is the most powerful tool of all. For the first time, He believed he could change his life. And after weeks of learning, he finally got his first opportunity. It wasn't big, but it was his first step. He gave everything, every second, every effort. That small payment meant everything, and slowly his journey began. He didn't stop. While others were sleeping, he was searching, learning, and dreaming of what was possible. Every single day was a new lesson. He knew that greatness wasn't born, it was built, step by agonizing step. He mastered the art of AI image and video generation, turning his wildest thoughts into professional-grade cinematic art. Using powerful AI engines, he crafted stories with a depth and scale he once only dreamed of. He learned the secret of the perfect edit, finding the rhythm and flow that brought his visions to life. He used the digital library of the world to learn, watching the masters and dissecting every frame. He mastered the language of the machines, how a single word could change the entire soul of a video. Then, the shift happened. His work wasn't an experiment anymore. It was real professional cinematic content. He was no longer struggling. He was becoming skilled, a master of the technology and himself. This is episode 4, the story of a boy who mastered the future. Are you ready to level up? With every project completed, his mastery grew. But he realized that knowledge, like a flame, only burns brighter when it's shared. He turned his focus to the digital horizon, ready to guide others on the same path he once walked alone. As he got better, he started helping others learn AI too. He began teaching how to create videos using AI, step by step, capturing his screen, sharing his secrets, and breaking down the complex. It wasn't just about the tools, it was about the vision. He showed them how to talk to the machine to make it dance. From students to stay-at-home parents, he was giving them the keys to a new world, guiding beginners through the first daunting steps. He shared everything he learned, from the nuances of prompts to the best tools available, making the impossible feel easy. His online classes became a sanctuary for creators, a place where fear of the future was replaced by the excitement of creation. The more he gave, the more the community flourished, a ripple effect of creativity that stretched across the globe. In coffee shops and quiet bedrooms, people were watching his videos, finding hope in their own potential. And a strange thing happened. As he helped others find their way, his own path became clearer and more prosperous than ever. His own work grew even faster. The world was starting to see the value of a master who also knew how to lead. Clients weren't just hiring him for his skills anymore, they were hiring him for his reputation. He was becoming a cornerstone of the industry. He was no longer invisible. The quiet boy in the corner was now the person everyone wanted to speak to. People started recognizing his skill. The respect he earned wasn't just about the money he made, but the lives he touched. He had found his place in the world. His journey was far from over, but for the first time, he knew exactly where he was going. Success was no longer a dream. It was his reality. Months passed, and his life completely changed. The seeds he planted in the silence of the night were finally beginning to bloom in the light of day. He didn't just learn AI, he mastered it. Every challenge that once seemed like a mountain was now just another line of code to optimize. He lived in the flow state. The boundary between his mind and the machine blurred, creating solutions that were as elegant as they were powerful. His first major launch didn't just succeed, it exploded. The market was hungry for the innovation he had spent months perfecting. He reinvested everything. Better tools, faster hardware, and a space that was designed for one thing: pure, uninterrupted creation. The goals got bigger. He was no longer thinking about survival. He was thinking about dominance in his niche. Scaling was the key. He built systems that didn't just work for him, but scaled his impact across thousands of users simultaneously. Success started in the morning. A clear mind, a sharp focus, and the discipline to execute the plan he had set the night before. He learned to delegate. He found the best minds to help him carry the load, allowing him to focus on the vision while they handled the execution. He was now earning consistently, doing what he once dreamed of. The days of checking his bank balance with fear were over. His personal brand grew alongside his business. He wasn't just a builder, he was a leader in the AI community. The world was his marketplace. From his home, he was transacting with businesses in London, Tokyo, and New York all at once. One day, he looked at the numbers and realized he was free, truly free. Financial stability was no longer a goal. It was his foundation. Now, He was investing in things that would outlast him, building wealth that would secure not just his life, but the lives of those he loved. Passive income streams were flowing. The machine he built was now running with minimal intervention, giving him the most valuable asset of all, time. He was surrounded by people who pushed him to be better. Your network is your net worth, and his was now stronger than ever. He had learned to disconnect without losing momentum. The systems were his soldiers, fighting for his success 24/7. He built a better life, step by step. This home was a physical manifestation of his mental transformation. Every corner was curated, a space designed to foster creativity, peace, and the highest level of thinking. This was his sanctuary, a place where the hardest problems were solved and the biggest dreams were born. The car was more than transport. It was a symbol of the precision and quality he now demanded from every aspect of his life. He prioritized his health. He knew that to maintain this level of success, his body had to be as sharp as his mind. Peace was his new luxury. The quiet moments of reflection were just as important as the hours of intense creation. He traveled the world, not to escape, but to expand his perspective. Every culture, every landscape added a new layer to his vision. But the greatest joy was giving back, providing for those who had provided for him when he had nothing. That was true success. He began to teach, passing on the lessons he learned the hard way so that others could find their path to freedom faster. He finally had stability and happiness, a partner who supported his ambition and shared in his peace. Happiness wasn't in the things he owned, but in the moments he shared. The stability of love was his greatest achievement. His life was calm. The frantic energy of his youth was replaced by a steady, powerful rhythm of living well. Gratitude was his daily practice. He never forgot where he came from, and that made every victory taste even sweeter. Stability meant he could finally breathe. He wasn't running away anymore. He was walking towards his future with purpose. Creative freedom was his ultimate goal. Now, he could create for the sake of beauty, not just for the sake of utility. He started learning things he once thought were for a different class of people. He realized that the only ceiling was his own imagination. He was now an authority, a voice that people listened to when they wanted to understand where the world was going next. Knowledge was his foundation. He never stopped being a student, even when he had become the master. He drove into the future with a clear vision. The road ahead was long, but he knew exactly where he was going. His success was a ripple. It touched his family, his friends, his community, and now it was touching the world. He was building a legacy, something that would remain long after the code stopped running, a story of what is possible. He started with nothing, but with skill, consistency, and AI, he changed everything. The contrast was his greatest motivation. He didn't just use technology, he partnered with it. In this new era, those who adapt are those who lead. Consistency was his superpower, doing the boring work when no one was watching so he could live the dream while everyone was. The biggest obstacle he ever faced was his own doubt. Once he conquered that, the world was easy to navigate. The future is wide open. The tools he used are available to you. The path he walked is open for you to follow. Your story doesn't have to be a dream. It can be your reality, but it starts with a decision to begin today. I was exactly where you are, and I'm telling you, it's possible. Skill, consistency, and the right tools. That's all you need. Go build your future. The journey is long, but the destination is more beautiful than you can imagine. Never give up on yourself. This was episode 6. The success is real. The future is yours. We'll see you in the next chapter. Before we begin, you should know that what you are about to see is not just a story. It is a reality that was lived. This is a true story. A story about the raw edge of struggle, the quiet fight for survival, and the incredible power of transformation. It's a story that might just change the way you look at your own life and the world around you. There was a time when the nights were longer than the days, when the cold wasn't just in the air, but in the soul. Imagine walking through a crowd and feeling like a ghost, seeing hundreds of faces, but not a single one looks back. When you have nothing, the world becomes a very big, very loud place that doesn't seem to have a room for you. But hunger isn't just about food. It's about a hunger for a different life, a hunger to be seen, to be more than a shadow. Beneath the glittering lights of the city, there are stories that the world prefers to ignore, hard truths that live in the silence of the night. They say that the darkest hour is just before the dawn, but for him, the darkness had lasted for years. This is the beginning of that dawn, a journey from the bottom of the world to a place he never dreamed possible. Morning doesn't always bring hope when you don't know where your next meal is coming from. To him, it just meant another day of survival. Dignity is a luxury he couldn't afford. When your stomach is empty, pride is the first thing you lose. He watched the world through glass, a world of warmth, of plenty, and of families laughing together, things he only knew from a distance. In those books, there were other worlds, but he was stuck in this one, a world that seemed to have no manual for people like him. Every storm felt like a personal attack. Every drop of rain was a reminder of how vulnerable he truly was. Sometimes kindness came in small, silent gestures. But even then, there was a wall, a distance that couldn't be crossed. He had no destination, only a desire to be anywhere but where he was. But maps are useless when you have no way to move. Childhood had been stolen from him, replaced by the heavy burden of adulthood far too soon. He forgot how to play, but he learned how to endure. Winter was the true enemy. It was a silent, freezing predator that followed him every step of the way. Every breath felt like glass. Safety was always temporary. He lived in the gaps, in the shadows, always ready to move, always ready to disappear. And then he found a window. Not a physical one, but a window into a different way of thinking, a discarded piece of knowledge. The words were difficult, but they were a ladder. He began to see that the world wasn't just made of brick and stone, but of ideas. For the first time in his life, he wasn't just thinking about tonight. He was thinking about tomorrow and the day after that. He studied them, how they dressed, how they spoke, how they moved. He was an outsider looking in, but he was learning the language of success. He realized that the only person who could save him was the boy in the mirror. No one was coming. It was all up to him. He started collecting the world's trash and seeing it as his treasure. Every broken piece was a puzzle he was determined to solve. While the rest of the world slept, he was building, failing, learning, and building again. The hunger was still there, but now it was different. The cold didn't matter anymore. Nothing mattered except the work. The boy who had nothing was starting to create something. This is where the story truly begins. The moment when the victim becomes the architect, when the shadow becomes a man. You might think you know how this ends. You might think you've heard this before, but you haven't, not like this. Every scar has a story. Every tear was a lesson, and every moment of pain was a brick in the foundation of what was to come. Are you ready to see what's possible? Are you ready to see how a life can be rebuilt from the ashes of nothing? This is the story of someone who refused to stay down. A story for anyone who has ever felt invisible. This is his truth, and perhaps, by the end of it, it will become your truth too. Welcome to the beginning of everything.